Good morning, everyone. This is Ward 3 City Councilperson Carrie McCormack. Excited to be with you here today. We are launching our YouTube channel today, as well as putting out content on different social media platforms. We want to make sure that we are sharing more information with what's going on at City Hall, also with what's going on at City Council, and reach more folks on digital platforms. So here at our YouTube channel, we'll be on a regular basis. We're aiming at every couple weeks. We'll be putting out information about the happenings, both in the neighborhood level, also from a citywide perspective. We're here in the City Council offices, and behind the camera, we've got Tony, who's our intern this summer. So Tony, could you come around and say hi? Say hi to everyone.
Everybody.
Tony has reminded me that YouTube is a thing where people go on now. Used to be, and it is again, so we're excited to be up and running on our channel. So we just wanted to share a few updates with folks today, but as we go forward, we're also gonna be streaming videos from different parts of Ward 3 and different parts of the city, so you don't have the same backdrop every day. A couple updates here from City Hall. Number one, we've got our next Ward 3 community-wide neighborhood meeting. So encouraging as many folks as possible to get to that. That is on July 16th. That's a Tuesday. Location of that is going to be at the Pilgrim Church, which is 2592 West 14th Street. So right in Tremont, our Ward 3 quarterly meeting. We have these meetings to keep folks informed and also to have anyone that has any concerns or questions to be able to bring those to those meetings. We're also bringing in a special presentation each meeting on things that are important in the community, things that we get questions on, and things that we want to keep folks updated on. So we're excited to announce that our special presentation on Tuesday the 16th will be from Metro Health. And they're going to go over their transformation plan on 25th and all that entails with that and the impact that that's going to have in the community. So there will be regular updates from the neighborhood. Feel free to come with any comments, questions, or concerns, but also there will be a special presentation on what's going on at Metro Health, and there's a ton going on at Metro Health, so that's exciting. 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, July 16th at Pilgrim on West 14th in Tremont. Again, 2592 West 14th. So come out to that. The next two pieces, we want to talk about some policy that's going on here at City Hall. The first one is with shared mobility devices. That's kind of a wonky term, but essentially what that is we want to make sure that we are promoting more multimodal transportation options here in Cleveland. So what the heck does that mean? We want to create a Cleveland that is more than just cars. We want to create a Cleveland that embraces different ways to get around town and different transportation options. So yes, that is cars, that's also transit, that's also pedestrian, but that's also opening the doors through this legislation to do things like electric scooters, to have things like electric bikes and different forms of transportation options. Why is that important? It's important not only to connect people from A to B, but it's also important to connect people to transit, and also thinking from an environmental standpoint and a traffic standpoint of getting more folks out of cars and into different ways of transportation. So we passed that legislation on June 3rd. Look for those scooters and electric bikes to be reintroduced to Cleveland this summer. We're hoping in the month of July. And so look forward for those to come out. That legislation also, though, has guidelines and safety regulations to make sure that all users on the street are doing so in a way that is safe and compatible in our community. So that passed on June 3rd, and we're waiting for that administrative process to go through on folks that want to apply to be a shared mobility vendor in Cleveland. We're also going to be taking a look at different ways to increase and enhance multimodal infrastructure in Cleveland. So whether that is buffered bike lanes and different infrastructure, this summer and into the fall, we're going to be looking at more ways to enhance that from a policy perspective here in Cleveland. And then the third piece we've got for you today is our lead safe legislation. This is a very, very important piece of legislation that is currently going through the process here in council and in the community. And what is this? So many older cities like Cleveland, with a lot of homes that were built before 1978, have lead-based paint. 1978 is important because that was the year that lead-based paint was outlawed throughout the United States for residential uses. So any homes or apartment buildings that were built before 78 most likely have lead paint in them. And what happens is when that paint is not taken care of, it can do things like chip or produce dust, both within the home and also in the property surrounding the home. And if a child ingests that dust, so if they drop a pacifier on the ground or if they touch a windowsill and then that dust or paint gets in their system, it can give them an elevated blood level. And when they get an elevated lead level, it can cause a lot of issues with cognitive function, issues with behavioral issues, and other physical health issues that can, quite frankly, if not treated right away, can lead to lifelong impacts. So the point is that we want to make sure the emphasis of this legislation is to target prevention. We want to make sure that children in the first place are not being poisoned by lead. Unfortunately, last year alone, over 1,200 children across the city of Cleveland were poisoned by lead paint, giving them elevated blood levels. Fundamentally, we believe that that is unacceptable. And there has been progress. The city and the county have been active in demolishing blighted properties. There are great groups out there like Environmental Health Watch, as well as the city of Cleveland, that has been working on both remediating and making homes and units lead safe. But we are clearly not at a point where we're an acceptable level. 1,200 children last year, I think most, if not all folks would agree, is an unacceptable amount of children. One child is unacceptable. So we knew that we needed to take an extra step to make sure that to dramatically reduce the amount of children that are lead poisoned in Cleveland. So what we're doing is we have introduced legislation that's going through the committee process, which does it's a big piece of legislation, but the fundamental aspects of it are, number one, we create a lead safe certificate. We are mandating that rental units within the city of Cleveland have to be cleared for lead hazards, which is in the form of a lead safe certificate. Starting in March of 2021, all rental units in the city of Cleveland will be required to have this, and then going through March of 2023. So we will be doing this process in waves throughout the city on a quarterly basis to ensure that we are confirming that rental units have lead safe certificates. In addition to that, we know that we can't just put a mandate out there and not create a support system, number one, to implement this, but also to help out our landlords. We know that the majority of our landlords in Cleveland are 1 and 2 unit homes. The majority of our landlords are mom and pop landlords that don't make a ton of money on their units and are going to need support and help in this process. So that is why it's so important that the Lead Safe Cleveland Coalition has been created leading up to this legislation, but that coalition will be critical to implement this new policy. So things like the Lead Safe Resource Center, things like the Lead Safe Home Fund, those are going to be really important tools to ensure that as we move forward to mandate lead safety in our units, that we're helping out landlords get that work done, that we're helping them with education resources, including financial resources. We don't want to put a mandate out there that doesn't have a supportive system to ensure that our landlords can create lead safe housing for our children and our families. In addition to that, we are implementing tenant protections for the folks that live in these rental units. The last thing we want to see is to have any unintended consequences on the folks that are renting units in the city of Cleveland. So fundamentally, we are mandating that units in the city of Cleveland are lead safe through a lead safe certificate. We've created a coalition as well as resources, both financially as well as in the community. And we're also putting in protections for tenants so that they are not negatively affected. One last important thing to note is that we will be reviewing this legislation on an annual basis. We're not just going to pass this and say, go for it. We're going to be reviewing this on an annual basis so that we can check in on the progress of the legislation, what is working, what might need to be amended, and to ensure that there are nothing's going on that we didn't intend on with the legislation. So this is a big piece. It's a complicated piece, It's an important piece for the city of Cleveland, but the bottom line is we are changing not only the policy, but we are pushing for a culture change in Cleveland to, number one, say that one child that is poisoned by lead is too many, and that we know that we have to create a systems and culture change in order to dramatically reduce the amount of children that are affected and poisoned by lead paint in the city of Cleveland. So we look forward, as we continue with the legislative process and then into the implementation process, for you to be a part of it, not only providing your feedback, but also being a support to the education in the community, as well as all of the efforts that will need to take place as we move ahead. So anyways, we wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the items going on in the community. Obviously, that's just a snapshot. There's a ton going on in Ward 3 throughout the city, but these are some of the important legislative initiatives that are taking place or have taken place this summer. Again, if you want to learn more about any of this, if you want to hear about the Metro Health transformation, or if you've got any questions for us, July 16th is our community meeting. Join us there at Pilgrim Church on West 14th. We look forward to staying in touch through these videos, which we'll put out on Twitter and Facebook and different social media platforms. And I'll make sure that not every one of these videos is in a conference room in City Hall. Will be out in the community. So we look forward to connecting on different digital platforms. Happy Friday, Cleveland. We're so happy to be a part of your weekend, and have a great weekend and a happy 4th of July coming up.